Hey guys, just a reminder, nothing I share here is financial advice. This is all based on my own experience, my strategy, and how I see the market. You're responsible for your own trades, so always do your own research, manage your risk, and never trade money you can't afford to lose. This content is meant to help you learn and think for yourself, not to copy or follow blindly. Let's keep it educational and intentional. Good morning, guys. So let's see what we have. First of all, a small recap, of course. Price went up to the higher timeframe resistance level, where last week and even before that, we said there was some confluence at one point concentrated, and that some reaction could be expected. We had the whole range point of control there, then the 2-week breaker high, the simple SR level of the previous range, then we had a channel there. If you remember, I showed it on closing bases, mainly on a linear chart. And if we switch to the yearly first-time Gann chart, we had this fib resistance aligning with the time trend line we had. So yes, overall, a nice confluence for resistance. Some other stats from last week showed at least another push higher to the next target, but as we see, obviously it didn't happen. But I also didn't blindly hold the longs that we had for the higher targets, as I know statistics are statistics and can work in both sides. So, as I also updated, I had my take profits here in this area. So even though the stats for last week suggested at least another push higher, I don't ignore a HTF level. But what it also means for last week is that something happened that didn't happen for a long time. Mainly, a very small weekly candle was printed that historically showed further displacement. So I think if I see it the next time, I would do everything the same way, as I just always, or mostly follow the logic with the stats. If the chance is small, I say that. But as we can see, sometimes even the small chance can work out. Now to the setups from last Friday. We had a possible long from this area and from the SFP level. The first one I didn't take, and it was updated in the Telegram group and in the Discord since it was a public update. So yes, one small loss was hit on this move down, but that's fine. Firstly, I don't bet too much on these day trades because that's not what makes the most money. And secondly, if you would follow my copy trading, then you would also be in a short as well, as I had one from this area. With the move down, we hit take profit and I left a small runner. And if you are interested in something like that, you can join with the link below or join my Patreon where you get updates as well. With that, you get the basic journal where you can journal your thoughts, mistakes, or successful trades. And there are some statistics with that where you can see which setup is the best for you based on your trading style. So overall, a nice thing. But as said, you can also join the copy trading. Okay, now let's have a look at the monthly. Here we can see it had a nice run, and as previously updated, it hit all the basic averages for the upside. So that was also another reason to take profit on the longs. The displacement for the month didn't work out, same as the previous week displacement stats. Sure, the month is not closed for now, and we have another week to go. But clearly we can see if price doesn't manage to break above this resistance level, then the monthly stats for higher prices would fail. So keeping an eye on that level if it gets reached. Looking at the momentum for this month, we can see as long as price is above 102K, momentum for the monthly remains up, and we need to see where it opens the next month. The statistics for the low are still unchanged. For now, there is a really small chance the low will be taken out, and I go with that until proven otherwise. Because it's not my personal wish, it's just normal statistics and numbers. So I can just tell you what I see. If the 2% chance that we have now to take out the low happens, so be it. But I don't tell anyone I aim for that if the chance is so low, simple as that. Switching now to the weekly, we can see momentum cross level is at 160,800. And if we look at the chart, we can see it's basically this SR level where price rejected from. So that remains a key level for now for the upside, statistically, as it stands now, and that early on Monday now. But in the last 4 years, 72% of the highs that were made on Monday in the night were taken out. So a 28% chance it will not happen, and a 72% chance it makes a new high. With the low, we have like a 99% chance it will make a new high. But here is the thing. If price, let's say, starts uptrending and takes out the weekly high again, then the stats can change. So always need to look for the signs and structure and how the levels get reclaimed or not, and always pay yourself at logical points, which here was the confluence level on the higher time frames. Also, if you're bearish, this is the spot for a weekly lower high, of course. We had here a weekly break of a low and a rise, and structure-wise for lower prices, you look for this to be the lower high and targeting a new low, which, as said, for now statistically is low probability, but anything is possible. If you had your reasons for that, then you long or short as I do it as well, and pay yourself at the logical points. Now, if we also look at the weekly candles, we can clearly see it's an SFP of the previous candle. So usually the bearish targets are the weekly equilibrium, and in some cases the low of that candle as well. So we can mark it out and see what level it would be. And when we switch to the lower time frames, we can see it would be some of these poor lows we had on the left side. So would it be a surprise to hit them? No, of course, as we had marked them out and talked already about them a few times. So if the price breaks the current level again, then most likely they would target some of these stops. It just took more time. But to this, we will come once they will hit, because for now, it's still a support area. And this move down doesn't mean price is bearish now. But if it starts to close a daily or 3-day candle below this range, then the doors are, of course, for some downside if there will be no strength by reclaiming this range low again. The daily momentum would switch down if it closes like this today. And it's a close below the 50 EMA cloud. So usually when this happens, they would try a push up on the next day. And that would be more or less the decision day. Now let's have a look at the averages and the levels. Based on the averages, Bitcoin hit today already the average loss level. And if we look at the range, we can see it's an SR level. Just extend the box to the left and we can see its previous resistance, then support, then resistance again. And now price broke above it and is testing it from the upside. Will it hold or not is another question, of course, but that's not a random level. So what bears want to see now, of course, is continuation down, and bulls want to see a reclaim of the previous range. For me, I don't really care what both of them want, but I'm looking to make some money. How my father says, when two people fight, the third one benefits, and I want to be the third one. With that said, for now I will look for this level, and if it holds or not, simply as that. For some, it's a random level, but if we look at it, we can clearly see whoever says that is wrong. The level can be broken, yes, but it's not random. And by looking at the yearly chart, we also clearly see how exactly this level was previously resistance and support, and now it's again at the same place here. So wicks down are fine, but losing it opens the door for lower levels if not managed to reclaim it. Before we go to the lower timeframes and structure, let's also have a look at the 5-day setup that we were observing. Here we can see the trade signal is still active. And as we were looking at some stats, we could see that the average loss was around 5% and average win around 39%. So while the average win would make clearly a new all-time high and beyond, the average loss would have a slight drop to around 110 to 109K. And what we had as well are the average timings for the losing and winning trades. So the loss, we said, would be on average 2 bars. So with that said, we will see today how the candle closes on the 5-day chart. And if it closes below the moving average, this setup is done and would again statistically be right for a losing trade because we are now in the second bar. So we will come to that tomorrow. But what we had as well is the 10-day chart printed such a setup. And here the losing stats are similar, basically 2 bars, which would take another 15 days. And a losing average trade is around 8%, which is around 107K. While the average winning trade would take some time around bars, well, that's actually, if we think about it, 90 days. And that's actually more or less 3 months, which would actually match into the quarterly bullish statistics. So, of course, structure needs to confirm that, and we need to observe how this holds in the next 5 to 15 days based on the average losing time, as the chance increases for this to be a winning trade once the time passes. And the average winning percent is 68, which is way higher. So that's the stats for this setup. Again, not my personal wishes. I just tell you what I see and what you see on the same screen. We just need to observe how this ends. If we quickly look at the 3-day setup that we had as well with a high probability target, that's now at 108K. So this would match, of course. But as said before, this target moves higher with time, as we see it happening like on 3-day it was below the low and now it's higher, and on the 4-day it's slowly moving higher. So that's something to keep in mind, but only if there is no strength at all, then yes, one can target these levels. For now, I will look how this SR level here holds, simply as that, not aiming random lower or higher, only based on stats and level to level. Now let's check the structure. The weekly structure I mentioned already, we had a breakdown, then a move down to the next support area where I had my long. From this area, on the rise, I hit take profits. For now, it is still active of course, but already secured profits, and I will observe how it behaves here. The bearish side would be a new low, and a weekly close below that would be a weekly confirmed structure change, where we would look for lower targets. Or invalidation if it breaks above the new swing high that would form. Until then, nothing is confirmed structure-wise. On the daily time frame, we had a bullish break with the swing low sitting on the current range low, where I also had a small loss on the trade as it broke down, but I also made some profits on the short. Now, what here, of course, needs to be watched is how the daily closes today. A close below is a daily structure break, and to the upside is the potential resistance flip area, and a break above is a clear invalidation for the bearish case. So it's simple to follow. On the 4-hourly time frame, we have a clear break, and as long as price is below, structure-wise, it's potential for lower prices. But of course, if price forms a range here and makes a new low, that structure can be switching up again. However, for now, it's sitting on the weekly open, which is usually a magnet for price. So if there will be a local trending move upwards, the previous range low and weekly open can be used as targets, and on a break above, for higher prices of course. And we have our channel here that I mentioned before. So the midline is a level to watch, and the lower part same as the higher part of it, as it had confluence at that level where it already rejected. So here at this point, I would wait for the Monday range to be formed for more information, and then we would see how price moves in the next days. Whether we stay in the Monday range first, or we get some setup like sweeping the Monday low where we can make the next trading decision. And as always, if price is below the Monday range and it's acting as resistance, we can see lower prices and a reclaim of the high counts as bullish, as long as the Monday range high or midpoint is holding. Simply to use, and not overcomplicating things. If we look at the cycle time for the 4-hourly, we can see it hit the bottom line and it's printing a buy signal. But here we need to wait for this 4-hourly candle to close before it confirms. The 12-hourly is now sitting at 108K BW. This number we already saw before on the EMA. And I also mentioned it previously a few times with the 12H cycle. In the end, it turned out to be a nice buy, as we had this rise afterward. On the daily time frame, we can see it's at 108K as well. So based on this, if price comes down, I will look for bullish signs to get involved. But this doesn't have to be hit, because as said, I go step by step. First, we are here in a local SR level, as we can simply see it on the chart, and I don't ignore that. So for me, I'm in a small long from this level. Here, as it moved below the average for today, I had another small long. For now, I would target the previous range low and the weekly open for take profit areas. And of course, if price breaks below this level, then I would have another losing trade. But I keep them small, and I don't have too many of them. And that's for the manual trades, mostly day trades or scalps. For my swing trades, I have even better win rate. And if you join the copy trading, there I trade one of my strategies that has these results, just a different strategy. So with that said, yes, I would be fine with a few losing manual trades. They don't hurt me as long as I have other things to trade, which are more precise, and the bigger money comes in on the swing trades to catch the bigger moves. For now, I have here a small long. What I would allow price to do is, of course, another SFP of this low, and even take some of the structure stops with the poor lows on the left side, because the trade idea is not invalidated as long as support holds. And when it gets invalidated, I will look for the next level while keeping the losses small. And knowing that's not what brings the most money, that's why I don't risk too much on them. You always should know your risk and wait for good setups. Not everyone will be a winning one, but knowing your system works over a long period of time gives you an edge, and that's the important part in trading. Don't over-leverage and oversize on the small moves especially. Risk bigger on high-confidence setups, for example, as I had down here back in time, and many more in the past, where I caught all the big moves and stayed in the trades with high confidence, not based on feelings, but backed up with data. And that we will continue to do. So for now, if someone is looking for a trade, the safer way would be, of course, to wait for some local structure shifts, like starting to form higher highs and higher lows on the intrastructure, or another SFP of the low. For the short people, they need to watch how price reacts when it backtests the previous level that got lost. For me, I go now and check some other stats that I will update in the Telegram. So if you want to see that, you can join the Patreon or the copy trade. Until then, I wish you a nice week, guys, and see you in the next one.